All right, let's get right into it. If you're gearing up for your accounting or audit exams, you know some topics are just heavier than others. Well, today we're tackling a big one, the audit report, straight out of Chapter 10 of the Financial Audit Manual. And listen, this isn't just another chapter, it's the grand finale of the entire audit process.
So, if you're studying for the PIPFA or DAO exams, getting a handle on the audit report is absolutely non-negotiable. Think of this session as your personal guide to breaking down exactly what the FM says, so you can walk into that exam feeling confident. Okay, let's do this.
So you might be asking, why all the hype around this one chapter? Well, think about it. Every single thing an auditor does, all the planning, the risk assessments, the late nights testing transactions, it all funnels down into this one single document, the audit report. It is the auditor's final word. And because it's the culmination of everything, you can bet examiners absolutely love to test you on it.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to hit the 4 main audit opinions. That's the real heart of the report. Then we'll look at the actual anatomy of the report itself, like a blueprint. We'll also clear up the whole who does what between the auditor and management. And finally, we'll explain that quirky little thing called the emphasis of matter paragraph. By the end, you'll have a solid framework to answer pretty much any question they throw at you. First up, the audit opinions. This is it, the verdict. It's without a doubt the most important part of the entire audit, and it's how the auditor tells the world what they found using very, very specific language.
The one everyone wants to see is the unqualified opinion. This is the gold standard, the all clear. As the family is out, it means the auditor looked at everything and is satisfied that the financial statements are basically correct and give a true and fair picture. For the company being audited, this is the clean bill of health they were hoping for. But let's be real, things aren't always perfect, right? Audits turn up stuff, so what happens then? How does an auditor figure out if a problem is big enough to mess up that nice, clean opinion? This is where it gets tricky, and frankly, where the toughest exam questions live. So an auditor has a kind of decision tree they follow. First, what's the problem? Did someone stop them from getting the evidence they needed, a scope limitation? Or do they just disagree with how the company's doing its accounting? Okay, once they identify the issue, they ask, is the effect material? Is it big enough that it could actually change a decision someone makes based on these financials? And if the answer is yes, there's one more massive question. Is it also pervasive? Does this one problem infect the entire set of financial statements? Okay, pay close attention here, because this is the concept you have to nail down. An issue can be material. It's important, for sure, but it might be stuck in just one corner. Like they messed up the value of their inventory, but everything else is fine. But if an issue is pervasive, well, that's like finding a crack in the foundation of a house. It makes you question the stability of the whole structure. It's so big, it undermines the financial statements as a whole. And making that call, that is what decides which type of modified opinion an auditor is going to give. And that one decision, pervasive or not, is what leads us to these 3 different flavors of modified opinions. If the problem is material but not pervasive, the auditor gives a qualified opinion. The key phrase to remember is except for. The financials are okay except for this one thing. Now, if the disagreement is both material and pervasive, it's an adverse opinion. This is bad news. It means the auditor is saying the statements do not give a fair view. And finally, if they couldn't get enough evidence and that limitation is pervasive, they issue a disclaimer of opinion. They're basically saying, look, we couldn't do our job properly, so we can't give you any opinion at all. So knowing what to say is half the battle, but knowing how to structure it is just as important. Let's move on to the actual blueprint of the report. The FAM is super specific about this, and you've got to know it. Look, this is one of those things you just have to burn into your brain. According to the FAM, this is the order every single time. Title, addressee, then the big 3 paragraphs, intro, scope, and opinion. Then you sign and date it at the end. There's no room to get creative here. Examiners love asking about the order, and honestly, it's one of the easiest marks to get if you just memorize it. Don't leave those points on the table. All right, let's clear something up that trips up so many students. Who is actually responsible for what? You've got management, and you've got the auditor. Their jobs are completely different. It's super simple when you break it down. Management, their job is to prepare the financial statements and make sure they're right. The auditor's job, it's totally separate. They come in later, examine those statements that management made, and then give their professional opinion on them. So for the exam, Management makes the statements. The auditor provides assurance on them. Two different roles. Period.
Now, for a really interesting scenario, what if the opinion is clean, unqualified, but the auditor still feels like there's something incredibly important that users need to be aware of? Well, for that, they have a special tool in their toolkit. It's called an emphasis of matter paragraph. So what is this thing? Well, an emphasis of matter paragraph doesn't add any new information. What it does is highlight something that's already disclosed properly in the financials, but it's so important that the auditor wants to make sure you don't miss it. Think of it like the auditor taking a big yellow highlighter and drawing a circle around a key note that's already there. And here is the golden rule. You absolutely have to remember this. Adding an emphasis of matter paragraph does not, I repeat, does not change the opinion. An unqualified opinion stays unqualified. The auditor is just adding some extra context. They're saying, hey, my opinion is clean, but you really need to pay close attention to this specific thing over here. And that really brings us back to the main point of this whole chapter, which is summed up perfectly by this quote right from the FAM. The entire goal of the audit report is to be unambiguous, crystal clear. Someone reading it needs to know without any doubt what the auditor concluded. All these rules about structure, wording, and different opinion types, they all serve that one single purpose: clarity. So we've covered the opinions, the structure, the key roles, and those special paragraphs. I'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you've got the blueprint, how does that one critical concept, pervasiveness, change the way you'll look at any audit problem they give you on an exam? Because that concept is the real key that unlocks the most complex scenarios. I really hope this helped you crack Chapter 10. If it did, you know what to do. Like, share, and subscribe for more.